Good afternoon. I'm here with my guest, poet and performer, Carla Schwartz. How are you? Thank you so much for coming today.
I'm great. Thank you so much, Doug, for inviting me.
All right, and Carla Schwartz is a poet, as we said, filmmaker, photographer, lyricist. Her work has appeared or is forthcoming in the Aurorian Fulcrum, Common Ground Review, Cactus Heart, Switched On Gutenberg, Word Gathering, Nantucket Review, Stone Highway Review, and many others. She's published Mother One More. You can lift that book up there. And that is, that's her most recent chapbook, full collection.
It's a full collection. It's called Mother One More Thing.
One More Thing.
Yeah.
Okay, what did I say?
Mother One More.
Oh, okay, all right. Her video work incorporates poetry, documentary, and structural videos. Carla is a professional writer with a doctoral degree from Princeton University. It's not chopped liver.
Thank you.
All right. Your latest collection, Mother One More Thing. Could you tell us where the germ of the idea came for this book?
Well, I have been writing for many years. So
right.
I was writing poems, a lot of poems that at a certain point I felt like needed to be collected into a volume. And my mother had passed away in 2007. And what I noticed after she passed away was,
Helga Schwartz, was it?
Helga Schwartz,
okay.
Yes. And I think about her a lot. And every time I think of my mother, I think, oh, I would like to say this to her. I would like to say that to her. And I kept thinking, oh, there's the Mother One More Thing. And I felt like that's always in the back of my mind when I'm writing, is that somehow I'm speaking a little bit to my mother, or she's informing my poetry in some way or another. And so that's the germ of how this came about, the volume.
And I just celebrated my mother's 90th birthday, so I try to say things and try to, there's always conflicts that you have over the years and try to make sort of closure and things like that. Well, knowing her, she'll live to 100.
That's fantastic.
Yep. Now, you have an event coming up at the Arts Armory this
Friday night,
May
20th,
May
8 p.m. at the Somerville Arts at the Armory in the cafe.
Okay.
It's part of Richard Cambridge's Poetry Theater.
Okay. You're going to give a talk and a multimedia presentation with poetry, music, song, and all this, right?
I'm going to do less lecture and more presenting video along with my poetry, and then at the end do a Q&A.
Now, I noticed in your press release that you're going to talk about the solar-powered nomad life. Are you a solar-powered nomad yourself?
I have been over last summer and the summer before. My partner, Claude, and I were solar-powered nomads. We lived last summer on Lake Champlain. We had no home except for our tiny house, which becomes a houseboat. And the name of the boat is Wake with the Sun, which is the name of my...
Is it still there, or you still have it?
Well, the house is built just like a tiny house is. I have actually a picture of it. I don't know if you can see that here. Yeah. Maybe you guys can't zoom in, but he has a picture too. And so this house is built like a tiny house on a trailer, the 128 square foot house, like all the other tiny houses, except for the fact that we crane it onto a pontoon boat. Mm-hmm. And it gets craned onto a pontoon boat, which is actually a tri-toon boat that's 3 pontoons. And suddenly we have 10 feet of decking in the front, and it becomes this boat with an electric motor out the back. And so the houseboat, when you put it together, is 14 feet wide and 28 feet long, and because of that, you can't drive it down a highway.
Okay.
Okay, so basically each summer we put it together once and we take it apart once. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the summer. So the last summer it was taken apart, the house was taken off of the boat, and the boat was folded up, and so the boat went down the highway and the house went separately down the highway. So it's not a boat right now, it's a house and a boat.
So you're allowed to do that? I mean, are there any restrictions in Lake Champlain to...
Lake Champlain does not have restrictions about anchoring overnight. Lots of people do bareboating and anchor overnight.
We were anchored for the whole summer.
Well, occasionally we were at a marina.
Yeah.
You know, so they have lots of marinas there, so we could hook into marinas every once in a while, which was nice. And but if we wanted to visit an island, they have moorings too, some places that you can moor. So you moor or anchor. It depends. If you're going to be on anchor, you're going to want to be in a protected cove because Lake Champlain is a very wild lake. Lots of big, big waves.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's people call it the Sixth Great Lake, and it's got parts of it are called the Inland Sea, and it's very big waves, sometimes 4-foot waves. You know.
And so you do this every summer?
Different lake every summer. The first summer, 2013, we were on Lake Winnipesaukee, and this summer we will be back on Lake Winnipesaukee. And in New Hampshire, you can't anchor overnight. So it's less adventurous. We're less nomads. We're going to be attached to a dwelling, you know, a dock that has a house next to it, so we can invite guests to visit us. So last summer, we didn't have that. We had a 2-man pedal kayak for our dinghy, which means that was how we communicated our own selves to the shore if we were anchored or moored. And we had 2 folding bicycles, which I brought one of them here today. We had 2 folding bicycles that fit under the bed, 2 of them, and so that we could actually go grocery shopping because we were totally untethered, you know, and we needed to be able to go grocery shopping if we hit the land. And we had to provision every 3 days or so. We could go 3 or 4 days without provisioning, and then we had to re-provision. We had a 5
Excuse me.
5 cubic foot refrigerator with a little freezer in it too.
Wonderful.
And toaster oven, microwave oven, induction hot plate.
Yeah,
all
so it's not a
running off the
Holiday Inn for you, you know,
No.
it's sort of a...
It's very nice, and it's all running off the sun, all solar powered.
All solar powered. So, I mean, tell me about that. Do you have panels on it, or?
There's no roofing on the house other than solar panels. Solar panels make the roof, and there's 12 of them.
Do you ever run out of power if it's been cloudy for a week? No.
Never. Every day we fill up to 100%.
Okay.
The battery.
And so you're making a statement, aren't you?
We're not, we're making a statement, but we're actually living a life, which is a really nice thing, you know,
Right.
and it's a beautiful house. You know, there's 9 windows in this house. So light comes in.
Do you have internet, or you just sort of disconnect?
Oh, yeah. No. That's the whole thing. We can work wherever
So you're not like Thoreau, just sort of, you know.
No. We can actually do work while we're in the middle of a lake.
Wonderful.
When we were in Moosehead Lake in Maine, in a town called Seboomic, which is the northern part of the lake, nothing there. People have to have generators or solar, or they can't survive. And people can't get cell phone service. And we had a Yagi antenna. This is what we have, this little antenna that you could point toward a cell tower. And with the 4G network, we had internet. And it was really great.
It sounds interesting. Now, this event that you're having this Thursday, right?
Friday,
I'm sorry.
the 20th.
Friday the 20th at 7 p.m.?
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Arts at the Armory.
Okay. You're going to have a video presentation. You're going to incorporate poetry and song and this. Who's doing the songs? You or?
So I have one music video. It's being premiered. So then, and it's lyrics that I wrote to a familiar classical tune. And Claude, my partner, and I sing it. We actually have 5 voices in there on the video. And
what's Claude's background?
Claude, actually, believe it or not, both of us have degrees, like from universities, in electrical engineering. But Claude does some computer consulting. And but he's very he did all the electrical work in the house, so he likes to do some plumbing, some electrical work. So he knows how to build things, which is really nice. He built the shells for the kitchen which we didn't have the first year, and we just had them. Actually, we just got them last spring, and the kitchen shelves are really nice because I put all the spices in there and everything, and they're handy for cooking and everything.
So you're going to cover a number of subjects. For instance, tiny house living, which we touched upon, right?
Yeah.
Do you never get claustrophobic? Do you?
That's the thing about being on the lake. We have 10 feet of decking in the front. And by the way, my YouTube channel is CB, as in Charlie Brown, 99 videos, plural. So CB 99 videos. And if you go there, you can search on that channel for tiny houseboat. You'll find a lot of videos.
Are there people in a movement of tiny houseboats, or are you just sort of a...
Well, there's a movement of tiny houses. And then houseboats, this is a unique boat. It doesn't, there are very few that exist. But there are some other houseboats in general tend to be tiny because otherwise you have the weight issue,
right.
So
you're not going to have a McMansion, right?
Right, exactly. And, houseboats that move. But they're very... We have yet to see another electric-powered houseboat.
Yeah, I haven't seen many of them.
So that's really unique. And I want to follow your question. What was the question?
Well, I was also going to say you're going to bring up invasive species.
Yes, invasive plant species.
Yes.
So that was another video that I started the winter of 2014. I started a video on invasive plant species, and then when I started learning about invasive plant species, the ones that are around here, a lot of them, glossy buckthorn, multiflora rose, Japanese knotweed, all of a sudden I opened my eyes and it's
Gypsy
everywhere.
Moth, would that be one?
Did you say gypsy moth?
Yeah.
That's not a plant.
That's
not a plant.
Oh, not a plant.
That's invading plants. But
right. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So suddenly my eyes are open and I see everywhere. I see sweet garlic mustard, Japanese knotweed, multiflora rose, glossy buckthorn. It's everywhere, and
so these are invasive species.
These are invasive
and what's
species.
the problem with those?
So there are two problems. One is they didn't come from here originally,
right.
and they spread virulently, and so they're very hard to get rid of. They're very hard, and they take over. They don't allow the native plants to thrive. I just rode here on the bike path,
sort of like gentrification, sort of, plants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I rode here on the Minuteman Bikeway, where there's lots of gentrification, and it's loaded with Japanese knotweed. It's like a farm.
Right. So the people have been there, the plants that have been there a long time are being pushed out.
Yeah, the native natural plants.
Or luxury knotweeds.
And then if you wanted to have something, even burning bush that people think is so beautiful. It's actually, these plants are banned for sale in Massachusetts right now because they are invasives and they're very hard to get rid of. So that's why. So I got thinking about it, and so it entered my poetry, and I have a lot of poems that.
Right, and you're a photographer as well, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so you tell me about your photographs that are going to be involved.
I take photographs when I am moved to, living on a lake. And coming back, I just want to come back to your one question about claustrophobia in the tiny house and houseboat. Because we have 10 feet of decking out there, it's like the world is your oyster. You walk outside and you have this huge amount of real estate. So you're inside, it's right. This much, but outside there's a huge amount of real estate, and we can while we're inside, often we're working, we're doing our own work, so we're not like on top of each other, or I'm cooking and Claude's working, so it works out very well. And I like to swim. I do a lot of swimming, and I do paddle boarding. We have a paddle board, and so I'm very happy to be outside. So sometimes I'll see things that I'll see the clouds, I'll see the sky, and I'll say, oh, this is just the way the clouds sit with the water and the reflection. I'll take a picture. Last year, I started taking picture of the algae that I saw, which is not a healthy thing in Lake Champlain. I saw the algae, but it's very beautiful at the same time as not being healthy, because it makes these swirls.
Beautiful, ugly.
Yeah, beautiful, ugly, exactly. And so I incorporated that into my poetry as well.
Okay. Now, also, you're bringing your poetry, which stems from these various issues we described, and your photography. And just give us a bit of background of you as a poet, as you're a multifaceted woman.
Yes, yes. Well, I have been writing poems since I was a little girl, 8 years old. I started writing my first book of poems, actually.
About 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, 15. So when I used to write rhyming poems, of course, and that has definitely made an evolution in my. But I've been a writer all my life. So before I even started studying engineering, I was a writer. And
was your mother a writer?
My mother was an artist.
Oh, okay.
She's a mathematician and artist, and interestingly, not so much of a writer. My mother had an interesting life I can tell you all about. She escaped from Nazi Germany, and so she could tell stories about her life as if she were still the little girl that came from Germany. It was very interesting the way she wrote to me. That it was still sort of a little girl's eyes that she would write from, but she was a very interesting thinker and very much an artist. And very smart, and wonderful person. Mm-hmm. So
we were discussing your poetry, your training as a poet.
My training as a poet. So I have taken workshops over the years with a number of poets, some that you've interviewed. I took a workshop with Mark Doty for quite a few years.
I didn't interview him here. I interviewed him online.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I took a workshop with him on the Cape. I used to spend my summers on the Cape, and actually my mother is related to this because my mom and I used to meet on the Cape, and she would take an art workshop, pottery.
Fine Arts Center or something.
Yeah, or at Castle Hill. She did pottery, a lot of stuff with pottery, and I would take a writing workshop, and then so we'd be there together, and we get to be together. At the same time, be in the same place at the same time. So I've taken workshops with quite a few poets at either Castle Hill or the Fine Arts Work Center for quite a few years, maybe over a period of 10, 12 years. For the last few years, I've been in Alan Feldman's workshop. You also interviewed him. And that's a great workshop, and it's an open workshop for everybody, and
does it at the Framingham Library.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
he's from Long Island too.
Right. So so that's a nice thing that I get. It like a number of the poems that are in this book also came out of that workshop, in the sense that he gives us some ideas to work from, and usually when we look at other poets' work, and then we kind of figure out what the formula is that these poets are working from, then we can go forward and write something original for ourselves. And what's interesting about that is it really lets your work be very differentiated instead of writing the same poem 20 times,
So you're not one who writes poems about writing poems.
I try not to. I do have a few poems that mention poetry, but sparingly.
Oh, yeah. Because I was interviewing C.D. Collins, and she was the other day, and she was telling me how, C.D. Collins, she was telling me how writers should go out and experience things, not write about their own writing, right? Yeah.
Right.
So she made a good point about that.
Right.
So you've got about 10 minutes to read from your own work.
Oh, great.
And that'd be great. By the way, again, repeat the time and all that stuff.
So, Friday, May 20th at 8 p.m. at the Arts at the Armory Cafe in Somerville, 191 Highland Avenue. I'll be there with my videos.
Claude's going to be there?
Claude's going to be there. We'll answer any questions you have at the end of the show. I am printing up some broadsides for the show, plus I'll have some books if people are interested. I would love to see people there.
And your website is?
My website is carlapoet.com. That's Carla with a C. My video channel is CB 99 Videos on YouTube. So it's CB as in Charlie Brown 99, the number less than 100, videos plural. And the blog that a lot of this work came from is called wakewiththesun.blogspot.com, and you can subscribe, and then you will find out about our new adventures this coming summer. So I'm going to start you off with a poem that I wrote in here called Daily Call. It's in Mother One More Thing. You can buy this on Amazon, or you can look at my website, carlapoet.com. And this is spoken from the narrator to her mother. Daily Call. You would be calling me out of the cold water today, telling me to buy a new car, as you did 15 years ago before I bought the Honda. I would be telling you it only has 235,000, and if I just replace the leaking fuel lines, it will last to 300 at least. You would parry with side airbags and anti-lock brakes. I still regret not having changed the timing gear in the Chevelle. Just then you would lament, upset, my face is cut, my eye bruised, my legs, my palm, and introduce me. This is my daughter. She fell off her bike. The subtext reads, she doesn't usually look like this. I'm embarrassed. Forgive her. Not buying into the healing powers of a cold pond, you would insist I will get sick. I can't call to say I won't let go of the Honda because you helped me buy it and you're not here anymore. You, star of the showroom, who knew how to say no, to walk away from what you didn't want.
What?
And 19. So this poem I'm going to read to you was on the Massachusetts Poetry, masspoetry.org, where they used to pick a poem of the moment. And this is called In Defense of Peaches. My mother tied her socks to a peach tree in front of her house. I'm guessing she took sweaty ones off her feet one day, or specially donned old ones and hung them, and an old shirt to scare away squirrels and rabbits. Maybe after reading about it somewhere. Better than fox urine, for sure. The socks still hang on the tree. Larva lollipops. None of us has thought to press nose to cloth and inhale. That was her last wish, to go outside. Let whatever of Mom still imbues remain and hang there year-round like her clay bells. The other day, under my peach tree, there were 4 hard ones shaken down and chewed as best a green stone can be. Must have been a squirrel with a bad memory, taking a bite of one and a next, leaving the unfinished to ferment. That same day, I discovered my shoe was lucky. Twice lost in 3 months, first on a mountain, next on a road. Maybe I should nestle those shoes into the crook of my peach tree to fend off the wildlife. Maybe my mother's climbing shoes will do. Maybe this year I will be lucky in peaches. I'll read you one more from the book, and then I'll read you one from what I'm going to do.
Minutes,
Okay. This poem is called A History of Raspberries. Frances lived in a little house between Route 9 and the Pike. She had been there 40 years, through 2 kids grown and gone, husband dead, cigarette habit dead, but her plantings thrived. She was thinning raspberries one year and offered me some. I made a place for these to compete with my wild blacks, which I could take or leave. When I lived in Vermont, I planted raspberries in front of the bathtub Mary. I don't know what the nuns next door thought about that, but those berries were good. It took 3 years before the first berries arrived one October, just barely before the first frost. In November, I put 2 soft, plump ones in a silver cardboard ring box to bring to my mother, sick in hospital. Her eyes lit on them as if they were holiday ornaments or truffles or cherry stones on the half shell. Now, Frances is dead of lung cancer. Mom, leukemia. I get a summer and fall crop of raspberries. I had berries into December this year. I still have the red-stained box. Each bite a sweet, tart burst. Frances, my mother, bathtub Mary. And I will read you one.
These were written after your mother's death? Or?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's too bad she didn't get to see them.
Yeah, and one of the best compliments I got about this book was from my aunt, which was my mother's sister-in-law, and she said that my mother would have loved the book, and so that was really sweet.
I mean, obviously you wouldn't be writing about her death, but some of these poems must have been written before her death.
Some of these poems, the ones that mention her, no. No, but the...
So you never wrote about her before her death?
Not much. Not that I, now that I think about it. Not.
So it took her death. I mean, that happens a lot. It took her death for you to.
For her to be front and center.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's no judgment on you. It
No.
happens all the time. I wrote one after my father died, so. Yeah.
So I'll finish with one more. This is a poem called Trying to Leave Mallet